Okay, hello ma'am. Good afternoon. This is my group from group 6 and we presented from and my friend and Nasuha and then Dewi. Okay, next slide. We're going to talking about T2C movement. So, more specifically, we suggest that complementizer head up spirit projection in causes which we term a complementizer bridge or CB, with the healthy position of CP being filled by a complementizer like that or for or if. However, complementizers are not the only kinds of word which can precede subject in causes. And the example, speaker A, honey buns, there's something I want to ask you. Speaker B, what, sweetie pie? Speaker A, if you will marry me. Speaker B, what do you say, darling? Speaker A, will you marry me? But now consider the structure of the second proposal, will you marry me? What position is occupied by the inverted auxiliary will, since will appears to occupy the same pre-subject position that the complementizer is occupied into. A possible suggestion to make is that the inverted auxiliary actually occupies the healthy position of CP. Next, please. Okay, so this is the example of tree diagram. We have CP and then C if, and then we have TP and PR on you, and then T accent, T will, VP, V Mary, and PR on me. If this so, well, expect will and F to be mutually exclusive on the assumption that we can only insert one word in a given head position like C, not two words. In other words, if both complementizer and inverted auxiliary occupy the healthy position of CP, we expect to find that a question can be introduced in there by a complementizer or by a proposed auxiliary but not by the two together. Also, the example is, what do you want to ask me? If you will marry me. The fact that question cannot contain both a complementizer and an inverted auxiliary provides use with empirical evidence that inverted auxiliary occupy the same structural position as complementizer, i.e., that both occupy the healthy position of CP. Next, please. An important question which is paged by the T2C movement analysis in 4 is why auxiliary should move from T to C in main clause question. Using a traditional metaphor, let us say that C is a strong head in interrogative main clauses in English, and that a strong C position has to be filled by an overt word to of some kind, either a complementizer directly merged in C or an auxiliary which moved from T to Z. Next. Also, we have the example of T to Z movement tree diagram in here. May I borrow your book? And we have CP, and then we have C May, and we have TP, we have PRNE, and then T accent, and then T May, and then VP, and V borrow, CP, tap, your, and book. Why auxiliaries may should move from T to Z in main clause question? The C is strong head interrogative main clause in English that a strong C position has to be filled by an overt word. That's why the auxiliary may should move from T to Z. So the next slide will be presented by Nasuha.
Movement as copying and deletion. Movement of an auxiliary from T to C cannot result in the loss of the original T constituent which heads TP. So T must remain in place in the form of a null constituent of some kind. And what null T constituent contain? In our discussion of gapping in example head ellipsis, in the previous chapter suggests a possible answer. And we suggest that ellipsis of the second or the italicized occurs of could in a sentence such as 11a below result in a structure such as 11b containing a null occurrence of cold designate as cold deletion, and this raises the possibility that T to C movement is a composite operation by which a copy of an auxiliary in T is first moved into C, and then the original occurrence of the auxiliary in T is deleted, by which we mean that its phonetic features are given a null spell out and so are unpronounced, and leaving a null copy of the auxiliary in T. Next. And then let's suppose that a series of merger operations have applied to derive the structure shown below. 12 CP with C null, and then TP with pronouns you, and then T bar with T will, and VP marry me. A copy of the T constituent will is then adjoined to the affixal null interrogative complementizer C null. So forming a complex C constituent which comprise both the original C constituent containing a null complementizer and the T constituent containing will. So the subsequent deletion of the phonetic feature of the original occurrence of will in T derives the structure like 13 below, with CP, C with T and C with T will and C null, and then TP with pronouns you, and T bar with T will that deleted, and VP with marry me. Next. Here are more the example. On this view, the T auxiliary will is initially merged with its VP complement marry me, and it's forming the T bar will marry me. The resulting T bar is merged with the pronouns you to form the TP you will marry me. This TP is then merged with a null interrogative complementizer, forming the CP null you will marry me. And the null complementizer, being a strong affix which need an auxiliary host, attract a copy of the T auxiliary will to adjoin to it, forming the CP will plus null you will marry me. Subsequent deletion of the phonetic feature of the original occurrence of will in turn derives will plus null you with will deletion marry me. Next. And here more example with CP with C and TP with pronoun I, with T bar with T shall, which with VP V open and CP with determination the and known window. So in this example, the auxiliary shall is going up and copying to the C, then it is deleted from T because of the movement of copying and deletion. So the next material will be present with Eliana. Eka.
Okay, thank you, Naswa. Now, V to T movement, more specifically, movement of a finite main verb from the head V position of VP into the head position of TP. We shall see that this kind of verb movement operation was productive in Elizabethan English, but is no longer productive in present-day English. Since part of the evidence for V to T movement involves negative sentence, we begin by looking at the syntax of negation. In Elizabethan English, clauses containing a finite auxiliary are typically negated by positioning not between the auxiliary, the italicized one, and the verb, the bold printed, like the example, she shall not see me, I will not think it, you has not left the value of a court. However, an interesting aspect of a negative sentence in Shakespearean English is that in auxiliaries finite clauses like those in below, the bold printed or aka the main verb is positioned is positioned in front of not. I care not for her, he her not that. My master seeks not me, I know not where to hide my head. If not in Elizabethan English is a VP specifier which is positioned at the leftmost edge of the verb phrase. How can we account for the fact that the verb which would otherwise be expected to follow the negative particle of not ends up positioned in front of not in sentence like in here? The answer The answer is that when a finite T in Elizabethan English contains no auxiliary, the verb moves out of the head V position of VP into the head T position of TP in order to fill T. Accordingly, a sentence like I care not for her in the above involves the V to T movement operation represented in the dotted arrow in the picture below, like CP, C null, TP pronoun I, T bar, VP for praise at verb not, V bar, V care, preposition P for pronoun her. Thus, the verb care is first merged in the head V position within TP and then moved into the head T position in TP, thereby ending up position in front of not with the original occurrence of care in V being given no spell out. So the sentence is pronounced I care not for her. Why the verb? An important theoretical question to ask in this juncture is why the verb care should move from V to T. Using Chomsky's strength metaphor, we can suppose that a finite T is strong in Elizabethan English and so must be filled. This means that in a sentence in which the T position is not filled by an auxiliary, the verb moves from V to T in order to fill the strong T position. In the tree diagram before, the strong tense affix in T attract the closest verb, which is C comments, namely the verb care, to move to T and attach to the tense affix so that the affix is provided by with a verbal host via movement where the notation indicates that the affix has features marking it as first person singular present tense, like in the picture, CP, TP, pronoun I, T bar, T for praise at verb not, verb V accent, V preposition, P pronoun her. The final sentence will be I care not for her. In this example, he heard not that sound. The verb heard is first merged in the V position. The verb heard is first merged in the V position within VP, and then moved into the head position into the head T position in TP. In TP, thereby ending up position in front of not within the original occurrence of care of heard in V being given in a null spell out. He heard not that sound. In this another example, my master seeks not me. The T is strong so that it's attract verb to moving out to the T position, and then the final sentence will be my master seeks not me. The next will be presented by Nasuha.
By contrast, T in present-day English contains a weak tense affix, and a weak tense affix cannot attract a verb to move from V to T, but rather can only be attached to a verbal host either by merge of an auxiliary In such auxiliary clauses, the weak tense affix in T undergoes the morphological operation of affix hopping in the PF component, lowering the affix onto the main verb in the manner shown by the arrow in below. In this tree diagram, CP with sinul and TP with pronoun he and TPAR with affix 3 singular present and VP with V enjoy and GP the classes. The T is moved to enjoy V. And on this view, both the strong and weak tense affixes can be directly merged with the auxiliary in T. The two differ in how the affix comes to be attached to a main verb. Next. Okay, that's all from our group. Thank you so much, ma'am. And see you.